Hello, chess friends. This is chess coach Valeria Lilov talking, and welcome to today's lecture on YouTube. So, today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, and we're going to be discussing the sacrifices. You see, sacrifices are very difficult, and there are many reasons why. First of all, because people don't do it right, they don't know how to do a sacrifice correctly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring some insight as to how we could do it right, or how we can think about sacrifices. To bring it up, I will talk to you about Alexander Alekhine. Alekhine was actually the fourth world champion, and considered by many, he is one of the greatest masters of attack. Many people don't know about him because he lived almost 100 years ago. And essentially, it is considered that at that era, the players were considerably weak. I don't think so. However, an amazing thing is Alekhine was brilliant at exploiting even the tiniest bits of mistakes, which made it look like his opponents were actually pretty weak. But they weren't. They were all top grandmasters. The biggest moment came when he actually defeated Josero Capablanca, who was considered the undefeated champion. Nobody could ever beat him. He was a legendary genius. And Alekhine didn't have that type of genius. He had a talent, and he worked really hard to develop it. But today we're going to be talking about how he was able to actually sacrifice. So we start with the game that was played, a beautiful game by Alekhine, as a matter of fact, that he played versus Hans Müller. So let's discuss it. Alekhine was actually playing with black's pieces, and there are a lot of instructive moments from this game. Essentially, after c4, black started with knight f6. He didn't play this symmetrical c5 that everybody knows. But he played something slightly different, f6, knight f6, with the idea to actually bring over e6 and potentially go for d5. So it makes a lot of sense to do like this. After that, so ultimately white played d4, e6, and now g3 is considered more flexible, but then white played knight f3, b6. See, it's interesting that when you're playing the opening, you could actually grab the formation that will keep every single one of your pieces as efficient as possible. And what that means is that you want to make sure you play only those pawn moves that are necessary for the most relevant places for each of your pieces. Like if we put the pawn on b6, we provide bishop b7, a very flexible position for our bishop. If we play a move like e6, we provide e7 or b4 for this bishop. If we play d5, that will lock the bishop. It's not that d5 is bad, but see, the way you position pawns is going to provide the long-term positions for each of your pieces. So you want to be quite careful as to how you develop that. Knight c3, bishop b7. It's all about the center squares of d5 and e4 now. And of course, if we play bishop b4, it's not going to be so much about doubling the pawns, although that matters, as it will be about making sure that white gets the double pawns and we could take advantage of it. So that was great. Queen c2. So white wants to play e4 now, and I'd like to know your opinion. It's a strong move by white. He's definitely setting up for the idea of attacking, and he'd like to do it right. Indeed, if he's given the chance to play e4, he will do it right. He will do it pretty quickly. He'll push up, open, and get going. So here's my first question to you guys. What would you do? Take a second to think about it. I'd like to hear. What would you like to play with as black? Now, while you're thinking about that, I do want to tell you that together with today's lecture, I'm basically able to promote 50% off an incredible masterclass by Grandmaster Damien Lemos, who the kind fellows of iChess have actually allowed me to represent. Ultimately, yes, this course is brilliant because it covers everything from sacrifices to in- destroying the pawn shields, counterattack, lead in development, as well as the opening attacks, which is something that a lot of people want to do and yet they don't know how. It's a 10-hour course for an incredible price of $40 that you can take only within the next few hours. So you can check the link below this video or the link on the chat that I've sent you. Now, getting back to the position, I got the suggestion of bishop b4. Not bad. Not bad. Alekhine played exactly that move because it's what we need. Ultimately, when the bishop is standing there, it not only pins the knight, but it's ready to exchange it, which will result in not in either creating a weakness or eventually getting the chance for our knight to step in towards the e4 square. And it's just wonderful. It's a great move. Now, white plays a3, and then black does bishop takes the c3. So we could see white plays queen takes the c3 and knight e4. See, there is nothing special so far at this till this point. It's all about just that smart kind of development and the possibility to actually simply get the pieces proper. So now we're great. White plays queen to c2, and then basically black plays the move of d6. So this is great. g3, and then we are playing with the move knight d7. Step by step, a very beautiful setup. Most important thing is that when black regroups by placing the move of like say knight of the d7 and rook to the b8, then so just what we can see is there's the move of pawn to the f5, and yeah, that's a great way to go for it. So actually, that's what we're looking to do right now, just step by step. Great variation, I have to admit. Let's see what it leads to next. After the move of knight d7, white actually continued with g3, and then there is the move of rook to the b8, b4, and now black is actually getting the castle on the short side. So there it is. Rook to b8, short castles, and f5. Now, the secret of any successful attack is not what most people think as the piece activity, the opponent's target. I mean, all of these are very necessary elements. However, the real secret to a successful attack lies within the pawn structure. And maybe you're tired of me talking about it, actually. But, in fact, we could have this idea of playing maybe in this position with knight of the knight f6, and then we could consider playing the move of, to queen e7 or queen to the e8. And so, like, let's see, white played bishop to the b2, and so after the move of bishop to the b2, there was queen e7 here and knight f6. So good. See how black's position simply flaws. It's that flow that you need to add in order to get the right circumstances to begin an attack. It doesn't work in any other way. You must get the right circumstances, to build an attack, to set it up for. And okay, then actually let's see. After that, white played the move of bishop to the a1. Okay, so this is interesting. What did white do in this case? What did black do? Queen e8. We continue not to develop, because development is sort of in the past now. But what we're continuing to do is to simply regroup the pieces. That means after we finished up with the development, our next job is to take those pieces and simply make them better, one step at a time. First step, develop. Second step, improve. Third step, attack. Now, most people don't like to go with the first two steps. They say, oh, I'm just going to push in with the third step. And it doesn't work. It's like to say, I want to go to Everest, but I don't want to climb to Everest. I don't want to take all the preparation. I just want to be there. And you could probably do that, but I wouldn't recommend you, to fly out there unprepared. And also, there is no effect. So essentially what you want to do is to take the time to build the position, create the opportunities that will further serve you when you begin your attack. That's what we're looking for. And step by step, that quite works. White did queen to c1, and then black played with the move of queen h5. It's excellent. Now the queen is ready. The rest of the pieces also feel quite in place, and everything is in the attack. So what actually happened in this position is that now white plays with queen f4. And now we have another pretty important position. Okay, so black's set. He's got a strong knight, two of them to be exact. He's got excellent stability and command. So the position really does feel excellent. But the big question now is where to go from now. Because while I certainly like this control, it's not clear if we could use it. So what would you guys do? I'll take your time to think about it. Two strong knights, excellent looking bishop, and a good control. So where to now? Now, I can see that nobody is actually saying anything, but I'd like to give you a couple of hints. If you already set the position, as I've said, you could start thinking a little bit about a possible plan of action or something that will help. I agree that it's not easy. It's never that easy. But you might want to think about something more special right now. Not going to lead to any victory or anything, but it could lead to some good ideas. Step forward, push back, push him back, and get things going. G5. Awesome move. Not so much about a sacrifice. Now you're probably thinking, Valery, I thought today was about sacrifices. What are you showing me? You're showing me those boring setups. I want to see the ending. I'm sorry. The ending will come. The sacrifice will actually happen. Just not yet. You have to go through that. And we're talking about practical chess right now. You can't pass this stage. This is why it's so important for me to show you how the sacrifice position really arises. Because you're not going to get in there. You're not going to be able to see those positions unless you know how to make them happen. So step by step, Black really builds it so he could have the possibility to attack and do things well. Okay, let's take a look and let's see. After that, then let's take a look. Then here, queen to c1, and then there was the move, knight to g4. It's excellent. The two knights are perfect. The pressure is well created, well situated in this position, and it's great. Let's keep doing it. All right. After that, let's see. After this move, white played h3, and then black sacrifice. Now let's talk about this sacrifice because it does not look convincing. That's why I didn't even ask you. How do we do that? Well, I think when we're talking about a sacrifice like this, you have to understand that there is only one thing that makes it right or wrong. And that one thing is what I'd call the follow-up. If your sacrifice provides you with a strong enough follow-up so you can follow through and challenge the opponent, that's awesome. But if it does not, don't do it. The problem of a move like knight f6, it does not. It's a nice candidate. Just does not do what you really want it to do. Now, knight takes f2, on the other hand, seems interesting. Because despite the loss of the knight takes f2, king takes f2, there are still moves like g4. There are ways to push through. And okay, yes, there is a bit of a risk, for sure. There always is. But there isn't that much of a problem, because actually when we play it like this, then we could make it through, and then we could attack against the opponent in such a way. So it's excellent. This is good. After that type of a move, and see, so what you could do is just like that type of thing, so you can consider. So just think about that possibility. So after that, g4, then queen to g5. Yes, I think that this would have been one of the better ways. So in fact, black had to figure out a precise way to deliver it. See, I always say the best attack is basically based on the opponent's best defense. So if you're thinking about, okay, where I would like to attack, then you have to think of, okay, where is he going to defend? How is he going to counter me? That's the only thing that determines whether your attack's going to work. And if it does not, well, that's too bad. It's not going to work. So I'd like to know, what do you guys think? Do we retreat after all? Do we choose to go back and live in fear? I guess not. But then how do we make that type of knight takes f2 work? Given that after knight takes f2 and the follow-up of g4 is met by queen g5, and all our attack would seemingly fade away. Does anybody have an idea? Retreat f4, is that an old recording or is it really live? It is live. Hello, it's live. So knight f6, okay, f4, he can play h6 g4. No, that's a good question. So take your time, think very carefully. See, today we're talking about Alekhine's secret to sacrifices. So I don't believe there was an actual secret to sacrifice, and I don't believe there is a secret to that I'll reveal to you. There's one thing, however, that I consider the most valuable thing when you're attacking, and ultimately that's what a sacrifice leads to. A sacrifice leads to an attack. So I see all these suggestions, rook f6 and f4 and all, they're nice. I agree, but they don't help. Let's get back to the point of knight takes f2, rook takes f2. Why do we fail? Why does every attack fail when we get to that point? It fails for one very specific reason. It does not, and this is very important, it does not help you to keep the pressure. Every successful attack is based on the idea of pressure. That means you want to have your opponent tied down to defend himself or stay on the backside area during all the time that you keep punching him. If you let him to take a breath and get out, that's about it. You lose your attack and you lose the possibilities with which you are creating it. This is why it is so necessary that instead of thinking just about how do I checkmate him or how do I win big material or how do I get that amazing attack that I'm dreaming about, we don't want that so as much as we want to think about how to keep him on the backside. So the moment we shift our goal with that, a lot of great new opportunities show. Like the move, almost there. King h8, nope, nope, not going to tell you. Try again. Think about this. How can we challenge him so that we could create, so that black can make even more pressure versus white's position? There's one move that does it, but only one. Only one move that does it all. Knight takes g3. Not quite. It doesn't pressure him. It's a nice take, but I don't feel like he's gonna be pressured there. I like it. I don't hate that move. Just trouble is it does not pressure him. We gotta be finding a move that will actually put him under pressure. Anyone? G4. Thank you. There we go. That move not only attacks the knight, but now makes him to worry about the h3 and about the whole king side as a whole. Beautiful move. And, it's great to see a move like this working out as perfectly. The other interesting thing is not so much about the move itself as it is about the fact that after h takes g and f takes g, he's got this rook on f2 that's attacked, the f3 knights that's attacked, and everything else with it. It's terrific. If white plays with a move like h takes g, f takes g, apparently he's going to lose the knight in addition to the rook. And if he tries to make a move like knight h4, we can take the rook and then play f4, breaking down the g3 and attacking that knight. Excuse me. Basically, white played the move of knight e1 right now. Going down. That's it. So, black took the knight and the rook, and white took back. Wow, that was good. See, that's what you want. The pressure is about keeping your opponent backside. I don't care how you do that. You could do that with a threat. You could do that by tying him down to defend something. You can do that by simply taking away the good squares of his pieces. You can do that in any way you want. But if you do that, you practically tie his hands behind his back and you keep punching him. That's what you want. So this is a very good position. His king is exposed. His position is not that great. And I got to say that things look quite good at the moment. So what are we going to be going for in this case? What to do? Now, f4. Open the lines. Get the bishop open. Obvious, my dear Watson. No, it's not obvious. But it definitely was f4. That move is made because black needs to open lines. When you attack, the success of any attack lies down to two very simple principles. You got to get more pieces, for one, that's necessary. And two, you better get the lines through which they can pass to attack the opponent. I mean, think about it. Chess is war. In war, essentially, the two things that are decisive is army and roads through which the army can come in and get the opponent. That's all you need. If you don't have one of these, you don't have a successful attack. The idea is that you find how to get more pieces and start opening the right lines so things can work out as well as they should. And they better do that. They better do that well. Truth be told, right after the move of pawn to f4 right here, it's quite beautiful to see the tactical activity going. And yeah, it's actually strong. Let's take a look. After this, white played with the move of d5, opening up. And when he did that kind of a candidate, of course, black just jumps in with g takes h. You're probably wondering, why the hell didn't white just take the pawn on f4? What would have happened? Well, a lot of things would have happened, but most importantly, black would simply continue to create more threats and more threats and more threats until white can't hold them no more. It's kind of sad, actually, if you really think about most of white's pieces, but it's his fault. He never had a chance to get those pieces because he didn't develop them right. And that's basically it. If he plays anything like, I don't know, rook g1, king h8, queen h4, h2, take, and the game is over. All of our pieces are involved, and there is no way how he could defend the square of f3. Amazing. Also, what I really want to say is how interesting it is. Starting from the beginning, this would never be possible if we didn't have this setup. So now you understand why I'm actually telling you about the boring setup. Chess is always about setup. So when somebody comes to me and tells me, Valery, I want to play like Tal, usually what that means is I want to sacrifice like Tal. So show me how do I do that. And when I start talking to him about deep structure, about development, about coordination, he says, no, that's not Tal. I want you to show me how to sacrifice like Tal. And that simply does not work. It's like to say, I want to be able to jump with a parachute, but I don't want a parachute. I don't want everything comes with the parachute. Can you jump with it? Sure, but you're not going to like the result. That's the reason why you need all that setup and the preparation. Because otherwise, you'll be jumping without a parachute and you'd like to feel the same way. So, this is pretty much what happened after f4, d5, g takes h. Black jumps, but he's got everything set up. And of course, he continues with the pressure. It's not about the checkmate. Remember that. You have an ultimate goal. I love that. I respect that. But it's not about the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal may or may not come in the end. For now, we're just looking for something quite decent. And so, for instance, after the queen g5, g4, and e5, now black stabilizes. See, it looks slow, but remember that speed in chess really does not depend on how fast you think you're going. Again, it depends on the pressure. It depends on the fact that if your opponent can't move or do anything, you can attack him in any way you want. But that is the most important thing. After e5, we close down the white bishop. We lock up everything he's got. And without him having the ability to make anything good, we continue with a check on h4. And now, guys, I want you to find out Alekhine's move. While you're thinking, I want to tell you a funny story. You know, when I was younger, I was very interested in the biographies of the great players because I wanted to find out what really helped them to win in chess. In that respect, I want to advise you one book. There is a great book that's called How Life Imitates Chess. Don't worry, it's not a, promo of the book or anything like that. I just love the book, and I feel like it could give you a lot of insight about studying and everything. It's by Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest players in my opinion, and still the best player in the world to this date. At least that's what I think. And one of the things that I read when I was reading the biography of Kasparov is that, like, Mikhail Botvinnik was the one who actually um, taught him that analysis is most important. So Kasparov really went through, analyze hundreds of games and write down his annotations in the notebook. What's so beautiful about this is that he analyzed the games of no other but Alekhine, every single game of Alekhine. And that was suggested by the greatest trainer in the world. So he analyzed every single game in detail. That's what Finnick suggested Kasparov. And then it was really what helped him to break through and become a master. Now, essentially, you understand why those games are so full and rich of ideas. Now, this last move shows it. Rook e8 simply gets us ready for the possibility of playing e4, and it plays out of the one idea you would usually want. Not about breaking through or messing up with his formation. These are all good things, I agree. No, we choose the positional approach, the boring, in some opinion, approach. Remember, though, chess is a game of strategy. It's not about a game of tactics or gambling. What if I provoke him to make a mistake? That's a good idea, but do it in the right ways. With rook e8, we're setting up for e4, but more importantly, we're setting to improve our worst place piece, getting that bishop right in the play so things could finally work out in the way we need them to. So that was it. It was good and efficient and beautiful. By the way, once again, these museum it really inspire me every time when I see them, and I want to recommend you deeply to take a look at the package that's offered by iChess on how to attack. A lot of these games are included there. A lot of the explanations by Grandmaster Limas are simply brilliant, and he teaches a lot about the right techniques. I think the most valuable thing when you study chess is learn the right techniques. If you learn the techniques, you could use them when you're playing, and that's much more important than just learning the games or studying the games. So in here, the ideas you see is strengthening and pressure all together, perfectly executed within black's last few moves. White plays queen d2 and rook e7. Damn, man, why don't I just go for e4? I want to attack him. Why doesn't he just do that and finish him off? Well, I teach a lot of kids, and it's kind of hard to explain kids that they have to go slow when there is a checkmating attack. So I say, imagine that when you're playing a winning position or a strong position, you're eating an ice cream. Now, you don't want to eat it too fast because you're not going to feel the pleasure of it. And you don't want to eat it too slow because it's going to melt. You have to find the right balance. And usually, that right balance depends on what you can get with the certain moves. Now, if you see an attacking move that's brilliant, that's going to break through, awesome. Do it. Jump. But if you don't, better wait for a while. Give yourself the opportunity to make one or two more improving moves just so you can get the right pieces in. And also, that helps you to make your opponent more nervous. You have no idea how many players will make a lot of your work for you. People get frustrated when they have to defend, especially when they see that you're teasing with them. So the more you hold them in the difficult position, more mistakes they'll likely make. The more mistakes they likely make, the easier it is for you. So here you go. Rook e7, bishop c8. And now rook g7. You think that game should have actually finished many, many moves ago? Not so. It's not about finishing it in many moves. It's about finishing him slowly, painfully. Burn him on a slow fire. Okay, this is, maybe kids are watching, so I'm not going to say torture him. Just basically think about the idea of how you can keep him in the bad position for as long as you can. That's what you want to do. H5. The whole thing is about us making him unable to start or launch any counterplay. He plays g5, and now we play rook takes g5, queen e1, and then we have an exchange, and then we have bishop g4. And there we go. We can think about rook f7 towards rook g7, and then we have the idea of setting the rook up there. Look at how unable white is to make any sort of counterplay. Well, isn't that great? I mean, I love that. And you would love it too, because you can't make a mistake. It's actually the easiest way to win a winning position. So Alekhine continued and continued and continued to squeeze the white down until there was no more that white could stand and defend. So, this is a great game in my opinion. If you think about when a sacrifice is made to work, it's so brilliant to begin from it and to begin from the very start and see how it works with the setting up of the structure, with all the key square, with the ability to build an attack, and then finally come to a point where the sacrifice doesn't just look cool and we make it for the sake of sacrificing, but rather because it helps us to take the pressure, the most important element of any successful attack, the ability to tie down the opponent on the backward positions so he has a hard time opening up. That's all. This is what Black did, and he did it really beautifully. Now, again, you might find this game very interesting. At least I did. So if any of you wants me to send him this game in a file, just send me a message on my email. Just gonna put my email, valery.lilov@gmail.com, or directly on my website through my website, tigerlilov.com. I'm gonna post those two on the chat, so please do take a look. If you want me to send you these annotated games with all the graphic commentary and whatever, I'd be very happy to do so. So now we're going to move on to another game played by the great Alekhine. So let's talk about it. All right, here we go. One of you said, there is more to life than increasing its speed. Yeah, I like that thought. I like that. All right, so let's take a look at another. Okay. Okay, almost there. Okay, so Alekhine was great with that game. And actually, no, I want to show you another game. I don't think we've got the time for a second Alekhine game. I want to show you probably the game of one of the most imaginative players of our age, Grandmaster Alexander Morozovich. Morozovich is, or a lot of people consider him, a very risky player, but he actually got into top two, top three in the world with his play. I think he is one of the most imaginative players ever. And let's talk about a game that he played versus Sergei Rublevsky. The game was played in St. Petersburg in 1998, almost 20 years ago, when Morozovich was in his young years. He was in his prime, basically. He started with e4, knight f3, e6, then we have knight c3 and Sicilian, going with a closed variation. Now, a lot of people consider this to be a rather passive system. I mean, come on, what can you get when you close down the position like this? A lot of things. And I have to say to you, the opening doesn't necessarily need to be very open so that you can get a good attack. On the contrary, if you have a solid structure, you can actually transform it into something more powerful. So that's what we're doing. b5, bishop g2, here, and d3. Start slow, but don't worry, it will go better as it comes. d6, castles, knight f6, and then we have a very beautiful idea. I'd like you to think about this position. And okay, so obviously we cannot make any attack against black just yet, but I'd like you to think about what should black try or do in this position. So should he try to figure out a possibility for an attack? Or should he actually try to form a good structure that he can further build on? What would you do right at this point? Knight d2 or e8 to push, or e1, I suppose, to push f4. Not bad. I think that's good. But there is a better way. You see, don't go back. I know that that sounds a little cliched, and you're probably thinking, oh, Valeri, again with his own stuff about backward moves. Do you know that 99% of the moves, the backward moves that I see amongst my students, since I started teaching, actually, have been terrible? And that's not a coincidence. I've taught more than 900 students in the last 10, 11 years, actually, since I started teaching seriously. And I've never seen one of them, starting from a complete beginner to an international master, my best student. I have not seen even one of them do a backward move that's not necessary and does well. We don't want that. If he forces us, yeah, okay, we have to. But if he doesn't, just don't do it. At g5. As you can see in the comment here, this jump is not a naive attempt to punish black for exposing himself early in the queen side. It's just a part of the attacking concept with f4, and it sets the knight on a much more active position. So here we go. Black plays b4 and knight e2. See, we got to go backwards sometimes. We have to do the defenses. We must do them. But, after that type of a move, we're actually getting ready for f4. We're getting ready for the e5 maybe. We can do all sorts of different stuff. It's good. It's good stuff. And right after that, black played bishop e7. So white plays f4. He moves forward, and again, just like in the previous game, you're going to see white is setting up the formation for attack. It takes time to build it, but it's good. It's all about that. Then actually black plays d5, and surely in this position, white plays e5. Pawn structure is key. It's like the backbone of your position. And so, for example, after that type of move, we have this opportunity to follow up with maybe g4, knight of the g. Maybe we can play h3, and of course, that's a great way to follow. Okay, and let's take a look. After this move, okay, basically black played knight back to the d7, knight f3. Now you can see that fantastic pawn looking at e5, so actually standing in there and preventing the black knight from moving forward. He doesn't have the ability to do that, but most importantly, we have the shot to go for maybe even g4 is a nice idea, everything, and so just it's all good, step by step, of course. And after that type of a move, what happens in the game is okay here, knight c6, and what would you do? I want you to take a moment because this is important. We're still forming our skeleton. And because you're still forming it, you'd like to find out how to do it right. What are the most important moves to help you get more activity or more space for all the fighting possibilities? So what to do now? Take a moment and just look at this. Is there an f6 break? It's possible, but I wouldn't recommend, because if he plays with a move of f6, we're just going to exchange, and then we're going to take the weakness on e6 for attack. So is g4 a good move? It's not bad. I think that it's okay. We can try that. But there is a better idea. See, what we'd like to do in this case is take a shot to make our game much better. And, how do we do that? c4. Beautiful move, actually. For one, it's because actually we are taking the shot against this d5 pawn, and also we're provoking him to exchange and open up. If he does it this way, we're going to attack, and eventually if he opens, then d takes the c, then we can have the move of pawn up takes the c5, c4. We get the bishop that's in the g2 and into the play, and that's wonderful. Okay, so right after that move, bleed b takes the c, b takes the c, a5, and then we have rook to the b1. Black actually played the move of rook to the b8, and okay, so now we have f5. And this is an important moment where you see a sacrifice taking place. Why? We still have three, actually two, let's say the rook on f1 is into the play. Two pieces undeveloped. It doesn't feel like White's got all the improvement that he did in the previous game. So why the hell do we do that? You have to understand that in some special circumstances, when your opponent is behind, you have the right to open up in order to exploit him quickly, even if it means that you don't have everything figured out just yet. This is quite valuable. With the move of f5, this is exactly what White does. He gets ready to open up the position despite the fact that quite a few of those pieces that he has are simply not as perfect. Okay, we don't have them as perfect, but we don't care because it's all about opening up and making it work. Now you could see that if black plays with knight d takes d5, knight takes d, knight takes d, f takes d, and bishop h3, this is really going to work out perfectly with bishop f4. And actually what is so interesting is that, I mean, if he doesn't get to play it like that, if black plays with edicts f, we could do moves like bishop f4, g5, e6, shooting against the d7, taking here, capturing f4, and simply moving forward with the idea of queen to h5. We've got this. We can shoot at the f5 pawn with bishop to the h3, and then we've got the ability to quickly move ahead and attack against him, on the more powerful positions, step by step. Why is f5 justified? Because black has broken the principles. He has basically done something wrong, and because of that, you've got the right to start attacking, even earlier. Now, what would have happened if black did d4? I think it would have weakened his position, it looks like. We could have just exchanged or maybe done something else. But whatever it is, it wouldn't have helped him. So rook b1, f5, and then actually rook takes b8. So now it's a question of, do we play f takes to the e in this position, or do we play knight f4? Both of which moves actually don't look so bad, I have to say, but it's quite important to figure it out. What to do now? Great question. White gets the e4 square. Yes, if black played d4, he would have gotten the e4 square. So now what? Do we exchange? Do we not? By the way, while you're thinking about that, once again, I'd like to remind you of the great 50% off by Grandmaster Demian Lamosh course on attacking chess. It's his master class. It's 10 hours of all the key techniques that you need to know about attacking, and only for a few hours. It's available at the incredible 50% discount right below this video, the link right below this video, or the link on the chat which I just posted. You can check this out. It's only available until tonight, so you can take a look at it. Um, so what should white try next? We've gotten the possibility to get to a certain point. Do we do f takes d or knight f4? I think knight f4 is good, but f takes to d is simpler. Remember how I said earlier that we need to get those lines into the play? So we do. And actually, after we have that kind of move, we're going to be able to quite effectively do the move of knight to f4, and we can do it simpler. Now you can compare the bishop from g2 as opposed to the bishop on the e6. It's just amazing. We also have the d5 that may be under a severe attack and a pressure, and most of white's pieces just being amazing where they are. Castles, knight takes d6. It's important to know the goal. It is not about some big tactical thing that will help you to kill it. No, it's pressure. Attack is about pressure. Now, would someone argue with me about that? Yes. A lot of strong players, but actually, after the exchange and the retake, then what we find out is that after the trade, the recaptures, then of course we get the move of bishop f4. It defends the e5, and ultimately we have this. So this is a great way to follow. Now we have this possibility to follow up of bishop h3, and now instead of winning, white transforms his advantage into a good pressure. Blah. Why would I want to do that? I mean, I know you probably most of you would not like this. I agree, totally. And yet I don't, because this is what we want. Pressure, good activity, solid control. And it continues that way. Queen d7, and now we're playing rook b1. The tie on the king's side holds some of his pieces back there. But the beauty of Morozovic's strategy here was that all he wants is to make sure that he could keep him more backward by moving on the queen side. It's called this, the rule of the second weakness. If you have one weakness, you're great. But the reality is that until you can create a second weakness, you're not going to have that much of a power. And so basically white is able to set up the control of the b file in addition to the actual weakness he's got on the e6. It's a beautiful move. And so what comes next is great. Rook takes b, knight takes b, queen b5 is excellent. We are making it to work. And then after that, essentially after black played queen c8, now there is c4. The light square bishop is going to open, and as it goes right now, it's going to open up in a good way. It's gonna be so this is we can have that opportunity to follow up against the not just the c6 but everything else. But step by step, that's how you want it. That's how it works. And it's pretty good, actually, if you ask me. Again, it's about pressure. I know that you came here to listen a lot more about sacrifices. I'm talking a lot more about attack and about pressure. But these are the cores of the sacrifice. A sacrifice is not going to work unless you have an immediate winning combination or unless you actually have the pressure to help you have a continuous attack against your opponent. That's what you really want to do. So, okay, let's take a look. And let's see, after the move pawn up to the c4, basically the idea is a black played queen a6, bishop h3. Now he's got way too many things to cover, unfortunately, and it's quite difficult, to be honest. It's not that easy. Here, king f7, queen b1. What I love about this is the construction. How now white jumps from one side to the other. Now you may say, okay, this is pretty inconsistent. There's no focus. Well, here's the trick. When you do it from the position of power, you've got all the freedom and the flexibility because your pieces are much more active and quite nice. However, when it's about your opponent, he does not have that type of flexibility. So actually, he will not be able to adjust and transfer his pieces so easily from this side of the board to the other. And that, my friend, is everything we care about. Step by step, we make it to work. And we make it great. Well, there it is. So now black played d takes to the c, d takes to the c. Queen takes to c, queen takes h7, knight d4. His only hope to try and counterattack, but it didn't matter because now white just checks in, king f8, and bishop f1. The thing is that now white turns his own bishop back, but then he can continue with the attack. And then now actually he plays bishop b5. So it's just all of it is one large sequence of attacking moves and threats, but it keeps everything else. And so now we can have a move like e6. We've got other type of resources. And black is in trouble. He played g5, bishop d2, bishop d8, a passive approach. But now white sets up the pass pawn, c4, king f1. This is an endgame. Really doesn't matter so much because white's already winning. All that we have to do is to make sure we don't let him to get away at. Now, if he plays bishop e7, of course, we trap the knight. And if he doesn't, well, we force him. So he loses. The final part of the game was pretty straightforward. That's why I went actually a little bit too quick on this. But I think if we really go back to the beginning, after the standard setup, you see how it's all created, beginning with the right skeleton and the active moves that we make towards the center. The pawn on e5 served white as a wedge to separate black's two flanks, king side and queen side. After that, given that black did not want a castle on the much weakly defended king side, white used that opportunity and countered the middle. As black waited more, there came another opportunity for white to sacrifice, and this time you could do it a bit early. Because there is this rule that if your opponent breaks the principles, you can choose to go a little bit faster too. You don't need to have all the preparation. You could just have enough. And that was exactly what we needed. It was perfect, it was well done, and was beautifully set. Ultimately, it was about the pressure. White created a weakness inside Black's territory, and then the next thing is we got a second area to simply dominate. This was quite impossible for Black to hold together, and eventually the result was quite clear. Flexibility gave White 2 to 3 weaknesses, including the Black King, the E6 pawn, and the B file, and Black simply did not have that kind of flexibility to hold it all together, which led to all the different, destruction that followed on the king's side. The tactical sequence in the end was nothing but a simple, like showdown to leave White with a winning endgame. And even if Black did not go for the exchange of queens, there would have been some other capture checks here, or Queen B7, and he would have lost in different ways. In any case, I'm really glad that I got to talk to you a little bit more about the concepts of attacking, the sacrifices, and all these small elements that make your attack or can make your possibilities work out. Now, one of you asked, can I make a dubious sacrifice when my opponent is under time pressure? Sure, you can, but I guess you have better evaluate if it's worth it, because when people are under time pressure, they think very fast. And if your sacrifice isn't worthy, it's going to get the piece and solidify this position, and then you would regret it. I'd recommend better keep it safe and hold him more in that type of position. So in any case, I'm very glad that I was able to share with you these brilliant examples. Once again, do not forget to check the incredible course by Grandmaster Damien Lamush. It's his new courses on the attacking and all the techniques that you need to know. A 10-hour masterclass offered at a 50% discount, less than $50 for an incredible value, only available for the next few hours. Tune in, and you can check the link below this video or the one that I send on the chat. I want to thank you all for joining me tonight, and I will speak to you next Saturday at the usual 12 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you all, and have a good night.